I'm going to cut round graduation. So I've been really into this in the last week. You've probably seen a few different shapes I've worked on. So I wanted to kind of go through the process of it instead of you just watching me do it. And let you know about some like pointers and tips that you got to watch out for and all that kind of stuff. And that's an interesting face, maybe.
Oh, I clicked.
You got a good question?
No, I clicked something.
So if you've got any questions, obviously feel free to type them in and ask us. And yeah, I'm going to get started before Kelly, while she's finishing up. So what I've done is I've just sectioned away following the natural round of the head. So finding that parietal ridge, right? So really in between these two planes, the top, which is more of a horizontal plane, isn't it? And then the sides and the underneath, which is more of a vertical plane. So it's really in that in-between area. So I've sectioned off, following that part of the head shape, and that just comes all the way down into your occipital area. So that's what I've done. I've just sectioned away that top area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through this underneath. Now I'm choosing to cut this haircut more vertically instead of coming through and working horizontally and using elevation. What I'm trying to achieve is more of a bowl kind of a cut. So not really a wedge kind of a haircut. So if I wanted more wedgy, more heavy, then I would come through more horizontally and work that weight line much lower and much heavier in my graduation. Whereas this, I'm going to come through more vertically and set my graduation in, and then I'm going to come through the top, and I'm going to increase that graduation and send it through to the parting all the way up to the top. So more of an internal graduation with this, instead of keeping my elevation below the round of the head. I'm going to work above it eventually. But to put this underneath in, I'm going to work vertical diagonal sections. I'm pretty much going to follow the angle of the hairline. So as you can see, as this drops off, that's the angle that I'm going to use. And I'm going to keep them that angle all the way through.
We have a question. Yeah. What doll heads do you use, and what scissors do you use to cut them?
Sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry, we're just kicking each other over here. So the mannequins that we are using today are from Hair Art. We use a few different ones, guys. I like to use different companies just to kind of keep the playing field level. So we use Hair Art, we use Pivot Point, and we use Exalto, which are a French company. And yeah, the scissors I'm using today I've just been given, they're a gift. They're the Mizutani Pen Slim. But they're KDF ones, and they're about 5 inches, and then you can see how nice and slim they are. So yeah, about a 5-inch scissor, very similar to my factory scissors from a few years back, but KDF. But I use a few different kinds. So I've got Matsuzaki. I like to use those. And then I've been using these lately, in most of the videos you've been watching lately, I've been using these kind of no brand. They're PHX brand actually. And they're from Shear World, they're Japanese also. So I only use Japanese scissors if I can help it. So I'm gonna get started, and then I'll let Kelly come in and just do a little bit of what she's going on and doing. So first thing I've got is that first diagonal back section. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to pull that down, allow that to just fall. And this is where I'm going to establish my outline through the front. And so it's round. So what that means is I'm going to cut a line that descends from the front towards the back. But what I have to look out for is, where do I want that line to be? And in according to where the hairline is in the back and all that kind of stuff. So what I want is, I kind of want it to be in this like low cheekbone area, and keeping it lower than the ear. Remember, the hair will shrink up, especially when you dry it. And what that will do is it will bring that outline up. So if you want it below the ear, then you've got to kind of keep it well below the ear, knowing that you will refine afterwards and it will come up a little bit. So if you start here then you can imagine it's going to finish up here afterwards, after the refinement. So you've got to be really on it with that. First thing I want to do is make sure that this hair is really damp so that it's consistently the same and it's going to do what I want it to do. It's on a mannequin, so the hair doesn't really cut well on this fake skin. So I'm actually just going to use my fingers to hold this gently in place. And I'm going to cut a line that's lower here and higher up here. So I'll come through and just do that. Nice sharp scissor. And so that's how I'll start my haircut. Get that right there. So now if I take this, I'll come over here, you guys can see this a bit better now. Once I pull this out, what you'll notice is that's graduation. So now what I will do is I will use this as my guide and I will work through. Now, I want the weight line to do this. I want it to naturally follow this natural round of the head. So to do that, I'm going to use a forward over direction into my previous section. So 2 will move into 1, 2 will come straight out, and 3 will go into 2 on, and so on in that manner. And what that's going to do, that's going to give me a nice descending weight line into the back. If I follow the head shape, my weight line will be level all the way through. I'm working with diagonal sections, so that will help encourage to push the weight back quicker, because what we're not doing is we're not working with just a vertical section. That only affects that panel, then the next panel, then the next panel. Once you switch to diagonal, you can see now that you're actually affecting more real estate, more area on the head shape. So it'll help encourage to push it that way. The vertical aspect is a much leaner version of graduation. If you use horizontal, you can see what will happen when you pull down, you get this bevel to it. So I'm going to come through and just clean that off. And now I have a leaner graduation. Remember, haircutting is the distribution of weight, so you're either going to build weight, or you're going to remove weight, or you're going to keep the weight. And within each of those, you're either going to have a skinny weight or a big weight. So I'm going to keep going over direct forward into my previous. Let's let Kelly get in there.
Hello.
You'd have finished by now, Kelly.
Katie's done. So I'm working on a bob. I really like the idea of starting in different places with this haircut, and I'll be using the razor today. But typically with the razor, you can't get that zero elevation because you do have to hold the hair to be able to get in to use your tool. So using, inspired by what DJ does from the front to the back, I'm going to kind of go in and do that same idea, but use a lot of the techniques that I've learned with the razor. So I want a really kind of clunky, chunky finish around the bottom here, but with a really defined line, a continuous line that goes all the way across. So what I did is I sectioned out the hair, all the stuff in the nape area down, and I'm going to save that to last, because my target goal for my line of my bob will be about the hairline here. And I don't want to start blindly and start cutting here and then move into the front and be too short or too long. So I have this section pulled down so I can actually see how the hair is laying and where it wants to fall. And I'm going to start over the ear, which is always the problem area for the bob. And then I'm going to work back into this. So what I'm also doing here is really kind of seeing how much volume and how much lift and bend I'm getting in the hair as it's kind of damp. And then letting the hair tell me where it wants to sit and where it wants to live. So knowing that I want my end length to be about there at the hairline, letting it sit in its natural state, and then coming in where I want my line to be, and then pulling my tension. Now I'm gonna go with a pretty big stroke here because I do want my ends to be really broken. So I kind of just like wind up there and come in using the toe of my blade. So same thing here, kind of letting that hair bounce up over the ear before I put my guide in. That way we know this is where my line is, and then I'm gonna pull my tension. Bringing that forward. And then same thing back here. Really, really loose, not combing it too much, but just kind of letting that texture pop through and then seeing where my line is. There, and then pulling down and around. So I'm just gonna continue that all the way up, just 0 elevation. I'm gonna do some more density removal. Let me show you on this next section here as I'm moving up, because I do want these hairs to kind of clump together. You know, the best analogy I've heard is you really want to create kind of like parking spots in the hair to sit. So we want kind of like a parking spot, a parking spot, a parking spot. So I'm going to go in with a deeper density removal as I'm coming in here. So combing that down into natural fall. I am combing the hair back here off of the cheekbone a little bit, but then kind of shaking that out to see where it's going to bend. So for density removal, I'm going to be going in pretty close to the scalp here and then really taking like big sections out. Really to create that kind of clumping together so that there's space for the hair to live. That looks good. Okay, so then now shaking that out and looking where my line is, which is here, right there, and then pull. My line is there, and pull.
All right, so just want to kind of update you on where I am and show you a little bit of the process of what I have to do with each section here. So I've moved my way back to about here so far, and as you can see, my section angle is still keeping that angle through here, which usually is very similar to the angle behind the ear. So I'm really keeping that angle all the way through. If I start to go more towards on a horizontal, too much diagonal, then it's going to become more about elevation. So I'm trying to keep it on that vertical aspect. So just using my previous section as the guide, and I'm going to pull that straight off the head. And my body position, I'm literally stood right in front of it. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my left foot so I can actually now kind of move my body around and I can see what I'm cutting. But I keep my right foot where it's at, so that's where the guide is. So I'm always going to pull the hair towards the guide. But if I move my right foot over here, I'm going to pull it all over here. So I'm going to lose the shape if I do that. So I'm going to keep that right foot planted, and I'll move my left foot forward, and now I can twist my body around, and I can see what I'm cutting. And I can also now see that I'm over-directing this one into that previous section. That's what I'm looking for. If I don't do that, then it's not going to descend consistently into the back. Now we can take this, as you can see, let's get it heavier towards the back. So I'll just have a little cross check, the opposite angle, and I'll just have a look at what's going on with my shape here. So this is the over direction that is creating this, what you're seeing through here. So you can see that it's getting heavier towards the back. So really, that's going to flick if you want it to. But what we're going to aim for is it more kind of solid and bowl looking. So we'll go for more of a 60s look to it instead of a 70s look. So let's take this into the back of the nape area now. Same thing, it angles down. Get the hair you don't need out of the way. If that gets in the way, then it's going to annoy you. If you get annoyed, your haircut's done.
We got a badge from Killer Hair Inc.
Oh, really? Good man.
We also got a question about the recording from Monday's class.
The recording from Monday's class. What was the question about?
Hasn't gone out yet.
Yeah, the recording went out yesterday. It always goes out the day after. I got lots of people asking yesterday. I paid, where is it?
In your email.
Yeah, it's in your email, and it's come from a company called WeTransfer. So look for WeTransfer. and you'll find the link. And the link lasts for, I think, 40 days. It's yours to keep, so you've got to download the video. So as I'm doing this now, I'm taking this in towards the nape area. And I'm over-directing this forward into that previous section. Even though there's no previous section in that nape area, I'm still pulling this forward as if there was. I'm pretending that there's hair down here. Right? So I'm just keeping that angle going in towards the nape area. So I'm trying not to copy the head shape. If I copy the head shape, then I'm just going to cut a layer. And I can expect the outline to be soft and flicky and just make the haircut kind of a little bit more looser.
Got 2 more badges.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you very much. You don't have to send us badges, guys, but that really is nice of you. That kind of leads me on to what we're doing. We're just about to launch our members only page. That means it's a private page. You get exclusive access to Knowledge Destroys Fear. It will be a monthly subscription. That will where we will be doing lives weekly. We will be releasing new content weekly, and all of that good stuff. And that starts on April 1st.
So I'm working around, same thing, just kind of removing that really thick removal of density, and you can see just how we get that nice bevel underneath, but also a lot of separation and movement. I've kind of brushed this area out of the face because as I was combing it, it was really fighting me wanting to fall into the face here. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that, whether I want to pull this back in there or give that something, a little bit more face framing yet. So I'm just going to leave that on her eyeball until I figure out what we want to do. So you can see how that sits in really, really nicely there. It tucks in. And then now I just need to match it on the other side.
That's why I'm only doing one side.
Yeah. So luckily I think this technique doesn't take a lot of time once you've really mastered it. It seems to move pretty quickly once you get into the rhythm of it and once you're really understanding how the hair is moving. Especially because the way that I cut hair with the razor too, in salon, a lot of the styling is done while it's cutting. I'm not manipulating the hair too much into something that I can't just kind of tousle and then, diffuse and hand dry. So just kind of combing that down and letting the roots kind of bounce up so that we can get that, nothing is going to be surprising afterwards. And with the difference between cutting with the scissor and cutting with the razor, when you come in with the scissor, you can pull that tight tension, or you can leave this at 0 degrees and cut on the skin. And I can't do that with the razor. So we, just need to find different ways to make it work for us as opposed to working harder. So.
You're a big fan of working smarter.
Oh my gosh. And I think it just really, it makes me be a little bit more creative too. Okay, so that's my target. It's there. So loosening that up and going right here in that hole where that hairline pops up and where the ear sits. So we know that we're hitting that problem area first. And then coming in with the heel side of the blade going forward. I'm just going to check my balance here. And I really like to work in more of a balanced shape, not perfectly symmetrical. Especially because the razor can't give you that defined line, that super geometric precision finish. It's not what the tool is made for. You can't force it to do that.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How do you not cut yourself with your razor?
With ultimate care.
What's your secret?
Lots of practice. Lots of practice.
And also cutting yourself.
And also cutting yourself a few times. Just respecting the tool,
Yeah, you learn, don't you? Quickly.
Yeah.
You gotta give it some blood.
You must pay in blood.
It's true.
I mean,
burn your wings.
the best way, like even just like beginners with, scissor cutting and razor cutting, just, handling it and holding it in your hand. I always recommend maybe just taking the blade out and then holding the razor in your hands just so that it gets comfortable. Same, I remember when I was in beauty school, I would just hold the comb and kind of twirl the comb, just to kind of get that body memory. And yeah, learning the tool. I mean, a dull blade, you'll cut yourself more than you would with a sharp blade. So a fresh blade, every client helps. And then thinking about it at like slicing a tomato, you really got to let the blade kind of glide into the hair. You don't want to push the hair. You just want the blade to do the work.
And then someone wanted to know, what are your knuckles doing?
What are my knuckles doing? Just chilling. I don't really know what you mean by that. Sorry, but I don't know. What are my knuckles doing? My knuckles are just there, man. My fingertips are more important in this case, aren't they? So my fingertips are pointing out because it's graduation. But that's only one knuckle, right? So I've got plenty of them here. So they're just chilling right there. So again, just forward into that previous section and moving my fingers out to the guideline.
Okay, they're trying to clarify
Okay.
As you were heading towards the back.
The thumb leads the way. So my thumb is, I'll just cut myself. My thumb is leading the way. And then my fingertips point up. So if I was working on the other side, my fingertips would be pointing down. And again, the thumb would be leading the way. Knuckles don't lead the way, it's the thumb.
Hitchhiker.
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide.
Okay, moving around here. I'm excited. I came in kind of like on fire this morning because I had this idea on how to blend this back part in as opposed to like layering this down. So I'm excited to try this out. I haven't tried this technique before. The front to back, yes, but dealing with this bottom part, I think it's going to give a really cool effect. Here. So loosening that up. Now looking for where I'm seeing the hair kind of like muddled, where I want them to be really individualized pieces. And then coming in with a swoosh. Take that out and you can see how they clump in. And I like this technique too because it doesn't leave the hair like fly away and piecey, It kind of like really good for like thick, curlier texture. Also, as I'm coming here into the front, I'm seeing that how this hair just wants to fall forward. So I'm just gonna brush that out of the way because I don't want it to fall into there.
Now what?
So now I'm just going to come through and check that shape. Just got my, cut my finger, so got my Star Wars plaster or Band-Aid. I've got these nice brand new scissors from Mizutani. Thank you, Kiyoshi. My knuckles not chilling now.
Chilling in a pool of blood.
See? No, you gotta bleed. So just checking this through the opposite way and just checking that descending line all the way down into the back. A little bit of weight there. So now what it's all about is connecting this top into it. So really what I've done there is I've just been consistent and considerate as to what I want to do with this. So now what I want to do is connect this in. So you've got a couple of options here because graduation being a build-up of weight, you can build that weight into many different places. So right now, if we do this, you can see the weight is really going to focus more on that cheekbone, jawline area. So if I wanted to keep it at that, then all I would do is take horizontal sections, just copying the parietal ridge, and I would bring my sections down onto this, right through here, right there. And that's going to keep my weight below the natural round of the head as far as my elevation. So that will keep my weight line much heavier. So more of an external buildup of weight. Or I can come through and I can actually take that peak of weight that we're seeing here and I can push that even higher. So I can either keep my corner right here by bringing everything else down onto that, or I can push through all the way to the top. Someone being smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Band-Aid brand?
Well, Band-Aid is the brand, people. Band-Aid is a brand. So that would be the brand. That's like when people call tissues Kleenex. No, Kleenex is the brand of tissue.
I personally like the Up and Up brand from Target.
Target brand?
Just glue it.
I couldn't get the glue quick enough.
Yeah.
So it's either SpongeBob Band-Aids
Yeah.
or Star Wars for me. It used to be like the princess ones because of my daughter, but we've moved on from that. So I'm going to come through, like I said, and I'm going to work from here now and build all the way through and back. So I'm going to take my graduation and move it into the inside now. So I'm going to take the same exact section into the top now. So vertical diagonal back. And I'm going to join this into the underneath. So this is going to be my perimeter. So I want this to be heavy, so I'm going to cut this pretty low like I did that first section to begin with. And there's my guide right there. So I'm going to aim for the corner of the tip of the nose, basically. I'm going to keep my outline really heavy. She's not going to want to see. All right, so proper Karen O, yeahs kind of feeling. Peggy Moffat in the 60s kind of a feeling. So keeping it low and just aiming for that. Again, you're going to refine something afterwards, aren't you? So don't go straight for the where exactly you want it. Go a little bit longer for safety. Remember, once it's gone, it's gone.
I found that as like a kindness to myself as a stylist too.
Totally.
You know?
Keeps the sanity
It does.
between you and your client. The client has much more trust in you then as well. You're not like, she's not leaving or they're not leaving like it's a little bit shorter than they wanted every time, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So next section, coming through with the same angle. Going to keep that consistent. I want the fluidity of the haircut to be consistent, so my sections need to kind of remain like so. Clip. So now what's going to happen, we're going to bring this into this, but we're now going to elevate that first section, just like I elevated that first section after I've established my outline. So now that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come stand behind so you guys can see it a little bit better. But I can come at it this way as well, but I think personally this is a better angle to work at. So I take that first section and I just lift that off the head like I did that first section through the underneath. And once I've got that where I want it, I then bring this onto that. So that's now my guide. And I'm going to work all the way through to the parting.
Is that the Blacksmith Mizutani scissor or the Pen Slim tailored?
This is the pen slim. Not silver, not black.
Pen.
The It's the original Pen Slim from a few years back. I had them custom made originally. A lot of people use them now, but they were originally made for factory scissor, as in where we're at right now, the factory. That's my place. And I've been enjoying using a smaller scissor. Again, back to my Vidal Sassoon roots, back to a 5-inch scissor. So I asked Kiyoshi if he could recommend one, and basically they just shortened the Pen Slim for me.
Okay, I figured out what I'm going to do here. So, oh, sorry, did I interrupt you?
Just real quick.
Yeah.
So again, into the previous. So you can see that the section number 1 I'm not using anymore. I'm only using number 2 now for number 3. And I'm following that graduation all the way through to the top. So what we get is a much leaner graduation this way. Because if I had pulled that down, this area would have been filled in. But I'm taking that corner that would have been here and pushing it further up the head all the way through.
Okay. So I cut, you can see it all the way around. We have our bob line that goes all the way around. We still have our neat to deal with, but as this is drying and setting in, I'm looking at the pieces that want to sit in front of the face. And I'm thinking this is really pretty right here, that's sitting right in front of the face. So I do this a lot with my clients too. I'll pull it out of the way. Like, do we like that? That looks a little Golden Girls to me. So I know that we like this, and I think I want to leave just like a really clunky, heavy fringe here. But if I cut this from the chin out that way, it's going to push it back into something like this. So I want to create that spot for this like bang fringe piece to sit into. So going with that same thing, kind of like scrunching this up and letting it fall into its, natural wave. I'm going to come in here and just grab it where I want it to sit, which is right at the chin. I'm going to take some deep density out and kind of create that V pocket here for this clunkier fringe, shorter to longer this way. So letting that sit really nice, not combing it before I grab it. Want it right at the chin, and then pulling my tension in, and then I'm going to come in here and just take a really heavy piece in here. This one will go out that way. So that we've maintained all of that really pretty wave right there in front of the face, but left this kind of like disconnected and clunky there. And I think that looks really cool. So I'm going to do the same on this side. We want that to hit in the chin. Remove some of this density just so we have some control in here. So going in really close, I'm taking out a big piece. This one too. Just kind of sketching that into place. Cool. Does that look balanced on the camera? Yep. Okay. So now moving into the back here, all of this stuff, the tail.
I like it like that.
You like, yeah. This is the octopus haircut, in my opinion. The squid. The jellyfish. There we go. So I want to keep this bob shape, but instead of going in and like combing it, I really just want to see where my line is, and then I'm going to go in and just notch that out. Notch all that length out to bring that in. I think this is a really good technique, especially for strong hairlines, because you still have all of this weight. If you have a really strong hairline, which these doll heads do have, they don't sit very nicely, you do get that kick up here. So when you go in, or on a real person that has the growth patterns and the whorls, if you go in and you take that short, it's just going to kick up on you. So having this weight here, the rest of the hair to kind of help control that a little bit, I think would be helpful in getting a shape like this. So let me bring this up. There we go. So I can see where my line is, right? So just kind of pinching off these areas. And using the weight of the razor to really kind of nice soft hairline in there. Off.
No messing
So satisfying. There's not a lot of manipulation that I'm doing with the hair at this point either, and I like that. And I know now that it's, once it dries, or, your client or person is home by themselves, they're not going to have to manipulate it much because I'm working with what I can see right in front of me. So cut it the way that people are going to wear it.
Ew.
You.
Salon's open. Oh, this looks like my son's hair now.
Does he still have it?
He does, and
I
it's
thought
like
you cut that off.
no, it just keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter because it's like nasty napping up against the back of the head. He also cuts it at school, I think, sometimes.
I cut my own hair.
So I'm just melting this away with the toe of the blade, just kind of like using it as like almost a pencil to kind of sketch in that shape there. Really, really visual, just seeing like what's kind of poking out and melting that away. Now kind of going more on the flat of the blade here to give a really nice soft edge around the bottom. That was loud.
What was that?
Love that.
Oh, like a dinosaur?
How much weight removal are you doing in each section?
It's hard to really say. I guess it's just what I'm looking for is consistency throughout like each section that I pull down. So, it depends on like how much hair you want to remove. If you do kind of like on the small part of the comb, you do smaller sections, that's going to create more volume. But I was looking to kind of have it more clumped together and not so broken at the ends. I wanted really clunky, so I did like a bigger section in weight removal. So I think just playing around with the razor there to see, how it affects the hair. Same thing, if you wanted to like add volume at the root and you could go in and like point cut that out, you could do the same thing with the razor if you go in and do small weight removal, piece. But what I was doing here to create more of that like pieces kind of clumped together was going in and just taking like big sections, so that it really broke that hair up to give it a lot of separation.
Cool.
Very cool.
Cool.
So literally at the last section in the back here. So I've kept those sections vertical diagonal all the way into the back, center back, and now I'm connecting this through, as you can see. I'm just following that angle all the way through, and so my elevation goes above the natural round of the head. So if you think about like graduation in terms of what I've just done, it looks more like a light bulb. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier towards the top, whereas if I was to keep this more external, my elevation through the top would be much lower, so it's more like a rooftop kind of a feeling to it. You really get that wedgy peak of of a weight line through in external graduation. Whereas this just takes it and kind of rounds it through it, flattens it. So it takes that and it does this to it. So it's still a build-up of weight. This is still the longest piece of hair on the head, all the way at the top. Got a little few stragglers here that I'm just going to join in. And then I'm just going to come through and I'm going to check the shape through to really kind of clean it up and make sure that it's perfect. I don't want to just kind of leave it at that. It looks great, it will look good, it'll look perfect, but what's going to happen is it'll start to grow out much quicker because I've not technically finished this yet. See, the thing with precision, it's got to be precision. You can't have any other bits in it. You can have precision with something that's not so precise over the top of it. But with this, it's graduation, it's pure construction. So you kind of want this to behave and do what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to come through now and just look through the opposite way. So I'm going to use vertical, diagonal, forward sections now. And I'm going to just look through my graduation and just take any excess off that I don't need. So this is just like when you cut a graduated bob, you finish at the front and then you would cross check back all the way through. I know not everyone does that, but that's what you should do. So now I'm just going to come through the opposite way and check through in this area and just check that. See if that is graduated in to what I want it to be. You setting it? What time is it?
9:45.
Oh, okay. She can't hear me.
Mm-mm.
She's busy making noise. So again, just really cleaning that up, coming back through the opposite way. This is going to let you know what needs to be worked on. So this is like proper inspecting that building that you just built. Remember, graduation is construction, layering is demolition. And if you do the layering right, it's organized demolition. If you don't, it's just demolition. It's a big mess. So I'm coming through each section. There's no over direction. There's no guideline when I'm cross-checking. Also, I'm going to start recutting the haircut. All I'm doing is cleaning up each section as I move through. So that's really going to start to make this sit in nice and clean. And then it's going to do what you want it to do. It's going to move right. It's not going to move and then you see all these kind of like weird lumpy bits that you're going to have to come through and start, you know, annihilating your graduation by doing too much of this afterwards. Remember, anytime you point cut, that's layering. You're removing weight. So you're adding layers to a graduated shape. So you're technically making it weaker. So I want to keep the strength of this. So that's why I'm working with solid lines all the way through. And you see, look, I'm just going to clean that up. That's what this checking is for. See, that all of a sudden now just sits so much nicer and stronger on the head. So those little bits of weight that you leave in there, because I've come through that way, they're going to start to show as that hair starts to move around. So it's always important to go through and double check. So go back through the opposite way to solidify the haircut. I always used to use the analogy of this is like neutralizing a perm. You get what I'm saying? So if you don't put the solution on and neutralize it, then the perm doesn't stick. This is kind of like the same thing for the haircut. So getting rid of any excess weight that's going to cause the shape to move around and fall in a different way than what I want it to do.
I am done.
Yay!
So I was, you know, my checking and cross-checking was really visual, meaning I just kind of messed the hair up and put it back into place to see if everything was in order and kind of flipped it around. So I was noticing that I can get a couple, you know, with the way that I handled the fringe here in the front, we could have something a little bit heavier, which is really cute. This kind of, you know, a deep part over here, like a 1990s supermodel,
Yeah.
like Bob.
Yeah.
Look here, and then if, you know, they want to flip it the other way, it's a little bit more, it's a little heavier fringe, which is cute too. But a really nice, strong bob line, but lots of broken pieces in there. So I think something like this too would last a really long time, especially because there is so much separation in there. It's all just gonna kind of grow out together into something a little bit longer. So I think something like this would be really versatile for somebody, especially like, you know, wavy hair, thick hair. I wouldn't do so much of this like density removal on like finer hair. But you know, this kind of just like loose, this is just what I really enjoy doing, just kind of free form, letting the razor kind of help me create these like broken, lived in types of look. Any questions?
No.
No?
Just kidding.
No question. Yeah, so just to recap, I pinned everything occipital down and I put that away, and then just zero elevation to remove density, and then created this kind of like heavier fringe look by creating short to long pieces where you can see how that really clumps together. And then that's it.
Magic.
Yay! Love it.
Almost done with
Thanks,
my
guys.
check all the way through. So again, guys, just wanted to pop on and do a live. We'll be back next week to do this. Everything changes on April 1st. We go into a private page. All of our lives and videos will move to my Knowledge Destroys Fear page. And our first live that we do will be on April the 6th.
We have a request.
We've got a request. Do we do
Please do an emo cut.
Yes, of course.
I would love to.
We'll do that next week. How about
Yeah.
Please
that? We'll
do
both do
Emo.
the scene cut.
Oh no.
I guess emo people kind of adopted that look as their own, but it's definitely just rock and roll. It's not emo. It's just the millennials took over the world and called things what they want to call them. I think they're responsible for naming the thing the French bob too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, we'll do that next week, no problem. We love doing the scene haircut. One of my most successful haircuts of my career was the scene haircut. So I'm going to do that for you. But yeah, so April 1st, you can join our private page. That means you'll get full access to us, following us around the world as we cut hair and teach. All of our stuff and material will be on there. It's going to cost you less than a gallon of gas a week. So it's a bargain as far as I'm concerned. So that's my round bob, in a sense. It's a halo bowl cut. That's it before any blow dry, any refinement. Let me just get a finished one so you can kind of see.
We also have some hands-on classes coming up.
Yeah, we do. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. Oh, there it is.
So this is what this is when it's refined. So just working nice round bowl graduation. This is a shorter version of it. Similar technique, but just shorter. So you get that kind of Bixie bowl kind of look to it. So it depends on what you want to do. You want to be more Beatles or do you want to be more Ramones? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back next Wednesday for some more live entertainment and education. I'll be working on videos all week as well, so you'll see a few little tutorials on my personal page. But yeah, think about joining our Knowledge Destroys Fear page. It starts on April 1st. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you.